Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 8th regular council meeting. We have an agenda and just wondering if anybody would like to, does anybody have anything to add? And if not, can we have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Digdon. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. Conflict of interest declaration. If anybody has any conflict of interest, they can declare it now, or they can wait till if something comes up and they see that they should have, and they can declare it at that time. So we have a couple of presentations. The first one is a presentation from Fédération Culturelle acadienne de la Nouvelle-Écosse, and we have Luc Deon, who's going to give us a presentation. So Luc, if you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So I'm just going to start out presenting what we do, who I am, and then present what we're planning, and then I'll go on to what we're asking of you. So I'm Luc Deon. I grew up in Pubnico, and I'm the executive director of la Fecan, la Fédération Culturelle acadienne de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So la Fecan is a nonprofit community organization, and we work to develop and promote Acadian culture throughout the province. So like I said, I'm from Pubnico, but I recently moved back to Yarmouth this summer, and looking to get involved in this area more. So I'm really happy to be back. So we are planning a massive show in Pubnico on August 15th for National Acadian Day. So just a little history on that before I get into our details. So every year for the past quite a few years now, Radio-Canada, CBC, broadcast this special live on the air on this day in one region. And this year we were selected. We put in a bid to do the show here, and we were accepted. So that's going to happen. But before this year, the past few years, there's kind of been a little focus on the area. Starting 2 years ago, it was a documentary style. During the pandemic, we couldn't do shows, but there were a few artists from Clare actually in the show 2 years ago. And then last year with Tableau Backyard, Vaughn Madden was involved in helping with the show, and it was called Tableau Backyard last year. And basically it showcased people's backyards, and a big part of it was in the Southwest. So we kind of want to keep that momentum going and focus even more on our side of the Southwest, the Argyll region, and do the live show in Pubnico, right on the Dennis Point Wharf, in the parking lot actually, but have the wharf in the background. So basically our show will be live on the night of the 15th, open to all, outdoor crowd. It's a free show, and obviously broadcast live on CBC nationally. And I can't name who will be in the show right now because we're still confirming those, but we booked amongst the biggest Acadian artists in the country, and we'll have that info out very soon. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the form I filled out. I gave some names in there, and it's pretty accurate, so you can have a look at that. So we're super excited to do this. I mean, we're going ahead. We've been working since January, since we found out that we got the bid, and yeah, it's going to happen for sure. So I guess what we're asking from you guys is some more cash, because it costs a ton to do this, even if we do have confirmed funding, but it costs a lot. And also any help with with human resources or volunteers and all that stuff would be hugely appreciated for sure. And obviously all the community involvement, like getting people into it, whether it's decorating the community, is just making a huge splash for the visitors who are coming in to see it, and just for the visual, for the TV, anything would be great. And also there's a whole health and safety aspect to this that we definitely be involved with you guys to discuss. So there you go. I don't know if any of you have any questions about anything. I went pretty quickly over the details there, but I'd definitely be open to any questions you guys have.
Open questions, anybody? Councillor Bork.
Thank you, Luke. It's a real good thing going on. So you said you wanted requests for cash. So how much are you looking for?
So our total budget in cash is over 400,000. We have 250 from Canadian Heritage. We're asking 125 from the province, and we're asking 25 from you to get to that 400. And this is like a low ball budget. It's really tight. I mean, Ronald Bourgeois from Camp originally, but he's produced shows for the past, I don't know how many years, 30 years, and he produced the show in 2004 for the Congrès Mondial in Halifax, and that show, the budget was closer to $1 million. And here we're talking, with the in-kind part from Radio-Canada, we're talking maybe 700,000. So it's pretty tight, and honestly, a big part of the challenge is also, there's been 2 years without really big shows of this kind, and even I mean, the crews all come from Halifax. The main crews from Tour Tech come and do this, but still a lot of people are either gone from from their jobs, or it's going to be I mean, they're there. We already confirmed them, but it's not getting any cheaper to produce these shows, is what I'm saying, I guess.
Okay. Councillor Dottimo.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Merci, Luc. My question to you is, you're looking for volunteer base. How many volunteers? What's that going to look like?
The more, the merrier. We're still figuring out exactly the roles and what roles will be volunteer. Like, I mean, certain positions will be paid, and we want to hire local people for the setup, and the huge stage takes 3-4 days to set up, and we want to hire people for that locally. But other volunteers, I mean, just controlling the crowd and, like, you know, reception and all that stuff. I mean, we don't have an exact number of how many people we're asking, but any help would be appreciated.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sonia.
Hello, Luc. Thank you for your presentation. Do you have any idea of how many people this may attract and from where?
Very hard to say for the live part, but we'd like to have between 1,000 and 2,000 people there if possible. And they don't give out the numbers for the Radio-Canada show, but it's around 100,000 who watch it online or on TV, and it's online after. But I mean, we'd have to figure out with the Health and Safety Committee how many people we can get there. Do you guys see this when I had these pictures on my screen? So basically, we're planning on putting the stage right in the parking lot right across from the Dennis Point Cafe. And it would be parallel to that wharf sticking out. So the crowd would be in the first parking lot on the bottom there. So everyone would be looking towards the stage, and the boats would be to the left. We'll still have to figure out how many people we can safely fit there. We already talked to all the fish plans, and we're talking with Floyd to make sure that, I mean, Floyd was one of the first calls we made. if it was possible and if he approved. But we're still ironing out the details of where people will park and all that. So yeah, I think we could fit quite a few people there. I mean, we've been on site a couple times, just imagining, and even the crews from Radio Canada came down and had a look, and everything's a go from their end.
Deputy Warden.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It's exciting to think that we're finally coming back around to having concerts and these types of activities. So it's really encouraging. I'm just curious if you've made a request to any of the neighboring municipalities. Have you asked them for any financial help with this at all?
No, but we might do Claire because some of the artists will be from there. So it probably makes sense. And I mean, it's a
there
big
is Acadian
project.
populations in other municipalities as well. So it might be something you could think about, right? It doesn't have to be the same amount you're asking from us, but it could be something you could consider.
Great suggestion. Yeah, for sure. I also spoke with Yasta quickly, but didn't ask for money from them, but more of a promotion thing.
Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. Very nice presentation. Look, and I've been hearing some about it because if people don't know, he mentioned Floyd. Floyd is the wharfinger down there in Lower West Pubnico and takes care of the wharf. I definitely believe back up our Deputy Warden 100% as far as asking other neighboring municipalities or town for some money for this. Because again, if you people get the people that you want to get down here, you're hoping to get, chances are a lot of them will be staying in town or around there and eating a lot of meals in there. So there'll definitely be a spin-off for town as well in the municipality of Yarmouth, chances are. And the only other thing I'd like to say here this evening, look, I'm 100% behind it. I'll definitely do what I can with you people. I'll be seeing you as the time goes on. But for full disclosure here this evening, I'm not quite sure how it works. And Mr. Muse or our warden can tell me about this just so I don't get dinged later on. I've been asked to rent my trailer for the show for some people to stay in it. So it is a monetary gain on my part. So I just want to make sure that I am putting that out there. And please advise me as to what to do with this. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to take that.
That's for Mr. Muse, I guess.
Okay, I thought it was. Councillor Digdon, it's most likely going to put you in a conflict of interest situation. So it's difficult for me to advise you whether or not you are in a conflict or not. That's kind of a personal choice. But me looking in on the situation, I think you want to err on the side of caution here, and you don't want to even show any perception. Even if there isn't a conflict, you don't really want the perception of a conflict. So my advice to you, take it as you will, Councillor, because it is your decision to make, would be to probably recuse yourself from the discussion. You recently kind of, it may just have occurred to you at the time of the discussion that it may put you in a position of conflict. That's not uncommon. It's right to raise it, and it's probably best to recuse yourself from the discussion and the vote on the matter.
I would say especially the vote, right?
If Councillor Digdon chooses that he in fact is in conflict, he should remove himself both from the discussion
as well,
vote, because even the discussion could influence others to vote in a way that may be perceived as conflicting. Okay. So, but and I will say this again, it's not for me to decide whether Glenn's in conflict. It's for Councillor Digdon to decide. And you know, if you're not sure today, Councillor, I'm not sure we're going to make a decision tonight. We typically don't on a presentation, but we also know that time is short. If there's no decision made, you're not in conflict because you haven't put yourself in a position to be in conflict. And if you want to get legal advice to protect yourself on this, you certainly have the occasion to do so as well.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up, Mr. Warden, thank you. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to err on the side of caution. Believe me, it's not definitely a big monetary gain on my part, but it is a monetary gain, or could be perceived to be. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Surratt.
Good presentation, Luke. Have you thought about grants to organization, to fill out a grants to organization? We have grants every year that we give out. The deadline is in April. And I would strongly suggest that you would maybe find out from the municipality how to proceed with that. That would be my suggestion.
Yes, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think is that the one I filled in, Scott? Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't sure who sees that when I filled it in. And for the Glen story, full disclosure, I didn't know. I knew about the trailers, but I didn't know from who. So yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? I think everybody's had a chance to ask questions. Yeah, go ahead, CEO Muse.
Only if the councillors have exhausted their questions.
Okay, well, I don't have a question. I just want to say, you know, there was a few questions that I had that were already asked, and that was one of them, was the one whether or not you had approached the town and the municipality, because we get requests from those two units when there's activities that are going on that are taking place in their municipality as well, and it's I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's not everybody benefits when there's something, whether it's in Argyll or Yarmouth or whatever. Yarmouth County benefits, and it's good. You know, I would suggest that you probably should at least approach them. Just a suggestion. That's going to be up to you.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. CEO Muse, go ahead.
Am I good? Okay. Just two quick ones. Number one, the province of Nova Scotia. So are you in a position to say how much of the funding is confirmed and how much is outstanding? Is that something you can disclose?
About half is confirmed. We snuck into their end of fiscal year budgets, and then they're waiting on the next fiscal year to do the rest.
So I guess
pretty confident with the amount, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be easy for me to assume that if they're going to give you half the amount, that they're committed to the project, and it would be kind of hard to back out after giving half. Anyway, my only second question was, who actually organizes the event? Is it CBC that would organize such an event like that, or is it up to La Fecan to kind of do the logistics, or is it a combination?
Yeah, great question. We do everything except for the actual filming and to air. They come with their trucks and cameras. We do everything else. We book the artists, we do the logistics, we set up the stage, and they just come and capture it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just sorry, permit me.
Go ahead.
So is the Fecan doing that internally, or are they going to hire like a Renard Bourgeois, which I know had done a special thing for Jerry Boudreau, for instance, that we co-sponsored with Claire. So is it a Renard Bourgeois kind of deal, or is it an internal deal?
Yeah, I am the only full-time employee of La Fecan. We hire everyone else. So Renard Bourgeois is hired on this project, as well as Daniel Leblanc from Grand Dérangement, who's doing the artistic direction. And then for the technical side, we have a technical director, Al Strickland. He's from Halifax, a longtime friend of Renard's, and he's done TV shows all his life. So he's kind of our technical advisor, and he'll be there for the show too. And then everyone else is kind of underneath these three people.
Sounds like it's in good hands. I just thank you, Warden, for allowing me to clarify.
Not a problem. I guess, look, there's so everything depends on funding to pay for this, because there's no revenue. Is there revenue coming in? Everything is free.
Cannot It
public.
cannot be a paying event. For the grant that we got from Canadian Heritage, it has to be, because it's a national fête nationale, it has to be free.
Right. So that if for some reason you don't get all the funding you need, you could be in trouble. You know, the money's got to come from somewhere.
Yes and no. I mean, we start with, right now we're booking the artist, and this is a big chunk of the cash, but then the second chunk is the stage. And there we have a little bit of leeway to what we get. I mean, how big is it? What do we have for screens and other fancy stuff that you can add on? It's not hard to spend more, but we can also cut down on what we get.
Okay. No, just wondering because. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, I want to thank you for your great presentation. I think this is a great event that's going to be coming up. It's good for our municipality to be showcased like that as well, you know, to have CBC come into our municipality and do a show of that nature for sure. So thank you. And like Alain said, probably, I'm not sure that that's going to get decided tonight, but definitely is going to get discussed at some point by council, and a decision definitely will be made for sure at some point.
Great.
Yeah, I see Councillor D'Entremont has a question.
I don't have a question. I guess I was just thinking, so we mentioned about approaching the other units in Yarmouth County, the municipality of Yarmouth and town of Yarmouth. They belong, or they're in Yasta with us. Yasta, Yarmouth Acadian Shores Tourism Association. So Neil McKenzie, who you've already been in contact, Neil has a pulse and a beat on those two units also. So don't, I wouldn't be afraid to, connect with him to maybe leverage some information and stuff to approach those two units for funding, because we always collaborate and on events. So, sometimes it's in Yarmouth, sometimes in the municipality of Yarmouth, and this time it's in the municipality of Argyll. So,
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks again, Rick. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay, get back to my agenda here. So the next presentation, we have a presentation from Reid Shepherd, WSB, about a development agreement by Felix and Kimberly Dion. And Reid, you're on.
Thank you very much, Warden. I'm just going to share my screen here and get a little presentation out for folks. And some of you would have already seen this during the Planning Advisory Committee, so those members who are on that committee. But of course, there's others, and there's some members of the public who wouldn't have seen this as well. So this relates to an application for a development agreement on a property at along Highway 335, and this is a proposed sawmill use is what the application is regarding. So the particular property is zoned coastal community, and we can see there's a bit of a diagram here that the applicant has submitted showing how the site is laid out. It's largely vacant, though it has recently been developed. And the applicant has already developed the site, but later learned that they needed to go through some proper approvals to do what they want to do. So the sawmill is currently there, but they've gone through this application now to basically legalize the use that's there. In terms of how we view an application like that, we have to view it as if it didn't exist. And so recommendations are based on, whether it's appropriate and kind of regardless of whether it's there or not now. It's a fairly large lot, over 8 acres. They're proposing to do the development agreement on the entire lot. They've got over 200 feet of frontage along the highway there as well. just in terms of street view, this is Google images, but it's fairly recent, within the last year or two. You can see that there's some residential areas, a couple of lots across the road. There's a decent setback from that, and then you can see that there's an entrance to this site where they've done some clearing to the site from here. This gives us an overview of kind of how the property stands out from the other ones. There's some light commercial or light industrial uses to the north and south. It's a fairly mixed area. You've got some different commercial, industrial, residential, which is common, of course, within this area. So as I mentioned, the use is there now, and so the building inspectors had taken some photos when they were on site recently, and so we can see the larger structure there. It has the actual sawmill machine. Then there's a smaller kind of storage building, and the owner of the property also processed some firewood. So you can see they have a firewood machine there, as well as kind of an accessory or to the primary use of a sawmill. Just a few more shots there of the property. This is kind of looking in from the road. And so they've got kind of some a wood yard, and then the small couple of buildings there as well. So yeah, just in terms of what they're applying for here, again, it's a development agreement. It's a coastal community zone currently. The reason why they need to apply for this is because in that zone, sawmills are permitted only by way of a development agreement process. So they're not permitted as of right, but they're not prohibited. They are allowed, but only through the specific process where we take a bit of a closer look and just make sure that we kind of know the details and the site plan is laid out, and there's an opportunity to make sure that there's not an issue with surrounding properties. This is a clip from the land use bylaw showing kind of where it is, and obviously it's in the coastal community zone. The same thing that goes for the properties that are surrounding it. So the municipal planning strategy contains policies that require, when you're looking at a development agreement application, that there's a bunch of evaluation criteria. So we've done that task, and that's included in the report about meeting all those requirements. One of the important things to note here is that the municipal planning strategy does consider the sawmill uses in that zone. So a municipal planning strategy amendment is not required. It's just the agreement that's required here, because sometimes you run into a situation where you need to do a municipal planning strategy amendment and a development agreement or a land use bylaw amendment. So again, we've got the surrounding properties are zoned the same. There's policies that kind of speak to what the coastal community is all about and what the intention is behind land uses in those areas. It's really getting at it's a rural area, and in those areas we see really a wide range of uses. We've got the commercial, we've got some light industrial, we've got some residential, agricultural, recreational. It's a real mix. But of course, we have a list of for certain uses that are allowed by right, and then you have other uses where they can be permitted, but they need to go through a process first to make sure they're appropriate. In terms of public engagement, the Planning Advisory Committee passed a motion just earlier this evening. If council were to move forward, the next step would be to do some advertisements and then do a formal public hearing at a future council meeting. There was a sign placed on the property by the applicant to notify folks in the area, and there's some formal requirements in terms of neighbors as well as an advertisement in the newspaper. So again, here we're just looking at next steps. Here we're at the kind of staff evaluation stage and first reading by council, and those next steps involve formal advertisements and then specific letters going to neighbors of the property. So the Planning Advisory Committee passed a motion earlier this evening that that council go ahead and do the first reading and then move on to the public hearing, which would be the next step. So that concludes the presentation portion, and happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, there we go. So any questions? Councillor Surratt.
Thank you, Reid. Good presentation. Reid, when it comes to noise bylaw and stuff like that, that development agreement does cover any noise? It could in that development agreement?
That's a great question. Yeah, basically, so in the report, there's a draft of the actual agreement. And so what it does is it gives the development officer, as appointed by the municipality, the ability to revoke their permit if they, and there's a whole list of things like if ensuring that there's not, if they're not abiding by the agreement, if they're doing something that they're not allowed to do, and then yes, if there's an excess of noise, of dust, etc. So that's really the idea behind the agreement, is that if there's an issue, we have the ability to revoke that and make sure that they're abiding by all the terms there.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. That was a great question that Councillor Surratt just asked, and I thought of the same thing yesterday, actually. So I went down there on site and I was talking to the person that owns the mill, and he assured me that their hours of operation would be between like 8 and 5 or 8 and 6, and that they don't want to make any noise to bother anyone around there, nor do they want to keep their place looking nice and stuff like that. So they definitely want to get along with the neighbors around that site. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing no one at the, like Reid mentioned, at the Planning Advisory Committee meeting, the committee is recommending that we proceed with this procedure here. And what we would need is a motion for the first reading of the development agreement. And with that, that would start the process, and then we would go on with all the regular stuff that needs to be done. Councillor Bourque, was that a motion? Okay, it was moved by Councillor Bourque, seconded by Councillor Digdon. There's no discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. So Reid, thank you. And I guess the process is started, I guess is what I should say after that motion. So,
Thank you all very much.
okay. Thank you for the presentation. Okay, so now we're moving on with the agenda, and the next one is the adoption of the minutes of the February 22nd Committee of the Whole meeting. Moved by Councillor Digdon, seconded by Councillor Saulnier. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. Business arising, a letter was sent to Yarmouth Hospital Foundation. At the last meeting, we had approved donation to the We Care Radiothon for as a sponsor. So I take it the letter has actually gone, or yeah, okay, that's already been done. It's just to advise that the motion was carried and that we did send the letter. Councillor reports. Anybody want to start with their council reports? If anybody has anything to. Councillor Bourque.
Thank you, Warden. Just a few things. we went and walked with the, on February 26th, coldest night of the year, which was a nice evening for walking. They raised $39,000. I don't know if we mentioned this last meeting, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so it was a good, successful walk, and I really enjoyed it. It was my first time, so I really enjoyed it, and it was a good gang. And then I just, my regular meetings, Nikhil, Recreation. And I just want to mention also that CAPEB has been organizing breakfast in our municipality, which is helping our community halls or whoever wants nonprofit. And they're going to have another one coming up, not a breakfast, but a bowl dinner in the coming weekends. And I also attended the African Heritage Flag raising. Thank you.
Okay, thought I saw Councillor Sonia and then Deputy Warden after. So Councillor Sonia, go ahead.
Thank you, Warden. I attended the waste check meeting today and the planning advisory as well. And Jacinta and some volunteers went to Wedgeport Fire Department and on a Saturday, I think it was, I forget the date, but they distributed the COVID test, and I want to thank them for that. And also, we had a active transportation plan committee put together, and with that, there was a further setup of a workshop where there will be future open houses to tend with that. So that's it, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Warden Albright.
Thank you. We had a doctor recruitment meeting on February 15th. They talked about the credit union house and how things are going well. Recruitment efforts are continuing. COVID makes it a little bit more difficult recruiting and retention wise, but hopefully, you know, with restrictions changing, we'll see the work won't be so difficult. But our navigator continues. She's working like crazy. We've had a couple of meetings with regards to the Mariner Center. We haven't heard anything yet in our application. We're still waiting on that. But as we know, all three municipalities, well, we know we did, but all three municipalities did agree and did make a motion to put in the funding we were asking for. We had a recreation meeting, as Councillor Burke mentioned. Again, COVID is making it a bit difficult for activities happening in our municipality, but our recreation team has been pretty creative, and they put out some seniors kits, and they've done some winter walks and things like that, and people are participating. We talked about a potential new project, and there's nothing new to report on the Glenwood Park, what we're looking to do there, nothing new yet. That's kind of holding still as well. But they're looking at doing a mapping project. So they're trying to create a map for all the infrastructure, recreation infrastructure that we have in our municipality, especially for new people coming in, as a way of saying we have trails here, we have there's trails, and there's a bike park here, there's ball fields. So we're taking it one step at a time, but I think that's a really good project that we're looking into as well. We had the committee of the whole meeting and the Planning Advisory Commission meeting today as well. Thank you.
Councillor Surratt.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just a few items. I did also attend the Mariner Center meeting, waste check along with Councillor Sonia. Just something on that waste check. We had a presentation on the application from the coalition of whatever it is. I'm trying to think of the name. Maybe Ted can remember the name. The company they're looking to. Scott Surratt knows about this. Sonia Smith, they're looking to replace the traps or pick up traps that are ghost traps. They're trying to find out. Just an interesting thing. There's 212,000 traps roughly made per year in Nova Scotia every year. So was she saying that 212 traps are lost? Well, she didn't say that, but I bet you there's a big proportion of that being lost. If they're making 212,000, I thought that was pretty interesting. We also had a petit déjeuner sponsored by CAPEB down at Coupe Social des Îles. And the other thing, I've met with some residents on the Tittle Road. And for once, it's not about flooding, it's about the fiber optic. Don't you think that at the end of the pavement, just past where I live, don't you think that the lines go underneath the road that goes to the end of the Tittle to the wharf? So therefore, they stop the fiber optic on the lines, on the poles, and it doesn't look like they'll be putting it to the end of the Tittle. So that's raising a lot of concern, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it. I'm contacting Develop Nova Scotia and trying to get Evan Nemeth from Ren onto this and try to find out. The word is that they may not be, they probably won't be doing anything. But we're on the map. We're on the map that says this part will be done. Morris Island has been done. Morris Island is connected. We're connected on the Tittle this part, but anyhow, there's an issue there. We're trying to get to the bottom of it. Thank you.
And anybody next? Councillor Donaldson. Can you unmute? Unmute, Richard.
Yes, other than me attending my regular committee meetings, I had a question asked of me of what actually goes on in my district in a way that made me sort of think. So I done some figuring out what actually did go on. I have 58 actual owners of lobster licenses in my district. We have Wade's Wire Traps. We have 2 major boat shops. We have the Old Argyler, we have McKeel, and we have Drumlin Heights. So I just pointed out to them that my District 6 was pretty important to the municipality. So the 58 licenses is what really surprised me when I went around and figured out how many there actually were. So conservatively, that's putting at least $25 million into the economy just from those licenses, if not more. So I think this person was surprised I come up with all those jobs for this little district. So just thought I'd throw that out there under my report.
Very good. Anybody else? Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. Attended a Mariners Center meeting. Attended a walk with Kathy and with our warden to raise money for the shift house. Beautiful evening. Attended a fire department meeting, talked about the tax rate and solar panels on the roof of the fire department. Worked at a COVID testing clinic at the West Pubnico Fire Hall. We done a lot of on-site testing. We also gave out 1,200 tests so people could take them in the community and have them. And I brought something up here a little while ago about a problem they were having in Chemin de Rocher with the waves coming over the existing rock wall that was there, and we needed some help. They needed some help, the residents, because after a storm, it was bad enough that at some point you could not get over there with a fire truck or with an ambulance if needed. And Colton LeBlanc, our MLA, worked on that project. And lo and behold, we've got a lot of rocks put over there, and the residents are very happy about that project taking place. So a big thank you to Colton and TIR on helping us on that one. And also, I might be letting the cat out of the bag here, but I guess, and our deputy warden sort of brought that up to me here at our last meeting. I guess it's okay to come to council with a problem, but at the same time, if you come to council with a problem, bring a solution. And there's nothing wrong with that. And last meeting we had, I felt that there was a problem with flag poles and the Acadian flag not being flown. I might be jumping ahead of myself here, but what I'm getting at is I went out, and it'll be coming up later. I've acquired a 5th flagpole for the municipal office, and there'll be more on that to come under the flagpoles issue after a while. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and Calvin, Councillor Doximo.
I have a question that resident from the municipality asked, and I couldn't answer it, but I figure somebody here might be able to answer, maybe not tonight, but maybe by email. We were talking about snowing. We're talking about the solar panels, wondering when there's snow on the solar panels, is there somebody that goes out and takes the snow out, or does the snow slide off, or how does that work? Do we have an answer to that question?
I don't have an answer.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, CAO.
The best answer will come from Kyle out of operations. Most likely, it's a negative if it's a dangerous situation. And it may the answer may differ depending on whether we own the building or not. So as you know, we have 2 solar panel installations, one on a building we do own and one in the building we don't. I'll endeavor to get that answer in the future. I can't tell you for sure whether we do it every time. If I was hazarding a guess, it would be unlikely that we would do it every time right away, because there will be other priorities that might come up first. It's an interesting question to ask, and so we'll investigate that. One of the things that we'd like to understand, perhaps for the next meeting or for this citizen, is what's the impact of the solar installation if that's happening, and you know, our installers will be very helpful there. So my answer is not sure, unlikely, but we'll get back to you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, that's everybody, I guess. So thanks for those reports. Next one is Warden's report, and that's attached. If there's any questions. And next is the staff report. So I'll turn that over to staff, whichever one wants to take that.
Councillor Muse, I can start and be very, very brief, and Scott can finish and be briefer. Historically speaking, that is. Anyway, I just wanted to just start with my own little bit by saying that I am now back. This is, I think this might be the first time that I'm actually in this chair coming back. I've been in meetings before, but just not in this position. So I just want to take a moment to thank staff who stepped up in a way that, you know, they had not much choice but to do. I say that, but they did have a choice. They could choose not to do it, but they chose to do it, and they did such an amazing job. I mean, you know, I could name them all. I'm not going to name any, and the reason why is that everybody played a role, and so it doesn't matter if they were on top of the decision-making pile or not. You know, everybody had to adjust their sails a little bit, and I want to say sincerely that I'm very thankful for that. There are 2 staff on this call, and so I just want them to know that I'm very thankful for that, and I think they know that. I'm also thankful for what council had to endure and the adjustments that they made while I was off on my recovery. And you know, I'm sure it was trying times at times, and certainly was for me watching and recovering. But I'm sure it was very hard on you all as councillors, because it makes for a very big change. And so you know, you got used to seeing me, and sometimes that's good, and sometimes you know, a new face is good too. So I know you had new faces around the table, and I got to say they did a fantastic job. And they were, not only that, but they were well supported. You know, they were well supported. So we at the same time as me being off, we were also making some pretty significant changes in our staff complement, some of which, you know, that you're very aware of around positions and changes. And so all of that was happening at the same time. So it's been kind of a whirlwind. I just want to say thank you, and that you know, hopefully my health allows me to continue to serve you and serve the community and staff. So that's the extent of what I'd like to say. We did, you know, I'll go quickly and say we attended Mariner Center meetings, and we are negotiating a contract. We'll bring that to you when it's ready. Fiber op, you know, other than the little hiccup there that Councillor Sudet mentioned, Morris Island and Sudets Island are online. And so, you know, whatever staff can do to help you, Councillor, in that question, let us know, because it's certainly new to me. Doesn't mean it was new to other staff, but it was new to me. So, you know, and etc. And you'll see the reports from other department heads. I'm not going to speak on those. They're authored by other people. And Scott, please jump in if I've neglected to say something.
Thank you. Just the staff reports there, and I'm not going to too many detail, but just highlight a few little things. Just that we have our tax sale scheduled for March 22nd at the West Pimlico Fire Hall. It's also on the agenda, but we're on the community development side. I've been working with the West Pimlico and Westward Legion and for the Veterans Banner program, and hoping to get that going, and it's on the agenda to discuss later. And I see Recreation is kind of planning some activities for the March break, some ice skating and some swimming. The rest is there for you to view, and I think it's self-explanatory. So thank you.
Questions for staff? Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. If I may ask through you, sir, our CAO, just looking at the West Pimlico sewer treatment, and that is the repairs on this summer for around the red cap, and around the credit union where there was a problem, and that's still on for this summer.
It is. The timing is dependent on our regulatory brothers, so the province, so and also availability of suppliers to actually do the work. It's underway. It's deep in planning. Kyle is an expert at it. He would tell you much more. But it's possible that it would start. You know, it's unlikely that significant amount of work would be done before the end of this year. But and as you know, we did budget for it this year, so that didn't happen the way that it was supposed to. So two things. One is we didn't budget enough. Once we looked at how bad it was, I think it's going to be a bit more costly than what we anticipated. That is well in hand by the Director of Operations, and in our capital budget conversations, that will be on the list. So it's contemplated for next year. If you recall, it was on the capital investment plan for last year, so we didn't get to that project. It hasn't disappeared, and it's considered to be a very important project for especially like climate change related issues on the West Pimlico sewer side.
Thank you, because just there was a problem there a little while ago earlier this year again, so just hoping we don't forget about it, that's all.
No, it's definitely on our list, and again, we rely on the Department of Environment to provide us appropriate approvals, and so we had a report that said XY, we got to do XY. Well, they may want XYZ, so it's a kind of a back and forth process, and then it kind of it frames out, and then at that point we can go out, but we can't do anything without their permission or permitting. So yeah, it's an issue, not forgotten, and certainly it's unfortunate that we had another incident there, but obviously due to excessive water on location, and there is a solution in planning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Bork.
Thank you, Warden. The Willett Road water tank, I'm bringing that up again. If it's not going to be replaced, I know it's a big expense, so it's an eyesore. I've mentioned it before. I was wondering if we could get a quote to get it painted, at least something like that. So 'cause I'm getting a lot of complaints in my community, and it is an eyesore. It's a rusty old tank.
Mm-hmm.
Through you, Warden, to Councillor Bork, we do not have a paint contemplated in the budget at this time. What we have to do is determine what the physical issues of that tank are. If we are not replacing that tank, to your point, the cosmetic side of things might actually be the last priority, unfortunately, for those that consider it to be an eyesore. I think people are underestimating the potential cost of a repaint. It could be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I think the priority, as it always has been, is to provide consistent water to the users. And if the paint is an issue, and it is an issue, it's not that it isn't an issue. It's just it's not our top priority right now, because we have other issues around the tank quality that have to be resolved first. Obviously, if you get that order wrong, you can paint a perfectly bad tank, and then where are you? So I get it. I get the issue, and it is an eyesore. There's no question at all that it is. We're going to have to tackle that issue, but I just want to be honest that the integrity of the tank will be priority one, because that's its fundamental use, and then the unsightly piece is certainly something we would address, but probably not immediately, and it may depend on other parties getting involved financially in the solution, provincial, federal, or even the users themselves. I know that may not be the answer that you want to hear right now, but I think it's as reality. It's our reality today around that, and I strongly encourage that to continue that way, because we don't want to waste anybody's investment there if there's a issue, and we are aware that there is a structural issue there, so we want to address that first. So I know it's not the best answer that for your constituent, but let them know that it's on the list. It's just not high on the order.
Okay. Someone else? I guess just want to make a comment. Reading the first line of your return to work, it says 3 days a week, may as well be 6. We don't want you to start working double hard in order to get 6 days into 3. That's not the purpose of you coming back to work for 3 days.
I think, Warden, we have our HR person who will tell me that I can't do that, right? Because the doctor's ordered. But I think what it meant was that in my position, it would be very difficult for me not to pay attention, even on the days that I'm not.
I know,
That's
exactly
what it means.
Anyway, just want to point that out.
Yeah, good point out. Thank you for that.
You were aware.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the boundary review, that's this year again. And
Yes.
do we usually have to give them 2 options? Is that
Yeah.
usually they want options, but we recommend one of them? Is that the same thing this year?
I believe that to be the case. So I haven't finished our preliminary research, though that has to happen pretty fast. Right now, we've had an initial meeting on this to talk about what our role would be as staff on your behalf, and whether it would be important for us to engage a third party to do elements of this.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so essentially, from our perspective, it would be UERB. If the rules are unchanged, we have to do a number of things. One would be that we have to look at the current electoral data in each district.
Mhm. Yes.
So if that's changed considerably, so may the lines,
Yeah.
because the rule is quite clear. I'm going to go into detail, but it's going to be fast, I promise. It's 10. You can't have more than 10% difference in each district. That's the term that relates to electoral population, not population that votes. So if you're okay to do that, but you can't go past 25%, and you better have a darned good reason if you're above 10. So in our case, we have had that situation because of community interests, like maybe it's an island, like in Morris Island's case, or maybe it's a language thing, but there has to be a compelling reason to do that. There's also one of the initial questions they want you to ask yourselves is, how many councillors should there be? And that would, if once you answer that question and make a recommendation to that question, which would include those maps, by the way, you then go out to the public and ask, right? So you have to take a position, but then you have to provide alternatives to that position. And the first question always to answer is, how many councillors represent your community? Because then and only then would you know where the boundaries would be drawn. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you had less, obviously the boundaries would change. There is another concept here that we're looking into, and it's, I'm not saying this is going to be part of an option that ends up in your plate, but just to give you an example of the thinking behind it that we do is, you know, what if we had everybody at large? What would that look like? Right. So then all of a sudden you don't have any districts anymore, right? Everybody would be elected at large. So that's mostly a town concept. It's usually reserved for a smaller location that doesn't have communities of interest. They're all like Main Street has the same issue as Forest Street. You know what I mean? So so we will look into that to see if it's even possible to even consider that. And lastly, what we'll do is do our best to present to you, okay, here's the recommendations that you need to control. And then you guys can help us decide which things that you want other people to control. So there are certain things that you may want your public to give you input on before you decide. So so that would involve some form of public engagement before you made that decision. So it sounds very complicated. It is, and that's why we're considering engaging, you know, like a WSP or similar to help us at least with an element. Like we know our community very, very well, but you know, maybe WSP is really super, super good at community engagement. And we can do community engagement, but this is about you guys. So it may feel like it's self-serving if we do it, and we don't want that for you. So we're considering all options. We'll bring that as quickly as we can to your table, knowing that we have to submit something by the end of the year.
Well, that's the thing, and there's work to be done prior to. We have to know what we're going to do by the end of the year. Anyway,
that's correct.
Good. That's good. Sorry I asked. I'm kidding. I'm not sorry I asked.
No, you're not. You're not kidding. I had the deputy warden tell me that I don't do things with a half, you know, half.
Councillor Reid, you had your hand up.
This is for the CAO. The transparency and the public engagement, that's a big piece, because I know that there was a challenge up in Clare, was it 8 years ago, and what the UARB came right away made them go back to the public because they hadn't had enough consultation. So that is a big piece. Just want to mention that.
Councillor Surratt could not have said it any better. If you miss something in your process and somebody catches you, you're in big, trouble. You'll have to start again. So that happened to us 8 years ago, and we're planning on it not happening again this time around. But the UARB, I will say this, some people are confused about what the role is of the UARB. The role of the UARB is not to select how many councillors or where your boundaries are. That's not their role. That's not what they're deciding. What they're deciding is, did you do the work that they asked you to do to determine where your lines and your councillors should be? So unless the community comes out with some form of like, what were you thinking? We said this, and this, and then you ended up with this. If they can challenge that, and they can bring, and that's what happened in Clare, they can bring that issue to the UARB. And if the UARB believes that we did not listen, then we actually did not follow the process, and they will reject you. So it's not the decision for the amount and where is yours. It's your decision to make. But the process to do it is theirs to monitor, if that makes sense.
Okay, that it for the report. Move on to for decision. 10A is a community health board, universal school food program, and it's a healthy food, healthy school food. And it's a letter that I got from the Yarmouth County Community Health Board, and they would like the federal budget, the government, the federal budget committee to commit to work with the provinces as well as the territories in order for the creation of a national school food program. What they're asking of us is to endorse the efforts and of the coalition to have a universal cost shared healthy school food program in in the form of they're looking for us in the form of a letter to the federal government that we're endorsing that to try and get the government to get a national healthy food for the schools. So that's basically what the ask is. It's mostly just a letter of support for what they're after. So, any questions, Councillor Bork?
It's just a comment. I think this is a good initiative. With the prices of food going up, I think it's important that our children are well fed and have healthy minds. And I would like to make a motion that we support this.
Okay. So, seconded by Deputy Warden Albright. Any discussion? Any questions or discussion on this? Seeing no one coming forward, I'll ask for the question. I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded? Carried. The next one is the Canadian Senior Curling Championship. This is the seniors, Canadian seniors. It's men and women, to be held in Yarmouth. And it's for December the 5th to the 10th. It's going to be held at the Mariner Center. What they're asking for, they didn't include their budget in here, but I've seen a copy of their budget. There was a budget that was sent. And they're looking for $10,000 per partner in YASTA, right? Which is us. So there's a big definitely a big economic impact, and they're assuming between $1 and $1.5 million. So there's going to be about 130 athletes plus fans plus whoever follows these, but they're asking for 10,000. Is what they're asking from our municipality as well as the other two. I haven't heard if that's gone to the other two municipalities, and if it has, I don't know whether or not they have agreed to fund that 10,000. Now, Councillor Doctorow, maybe you have more on this since you're part of YASTA.
Thank you, Warden Use. The other two units, the municipality of Yarmouth and the town of Yarmouth, have already approved their $10,000 each. So they're just waiting on the municipality of Argyle. So
Okay.
I think the last meeting when I brought it up, we had talked about other things coming, and I guess we had got the presentation from Nick tonight about the concert in the summertime, and we're just trying to figure out maybe the logistics of the budgeting. So I think maybe CA Muse might have some insight there, I'm hoping. So
yeah, perhaps you do. I mean, that's two big asks, you know, for this for 1 year.
And just to add, we usually every 2 years we do grant $7,500 to the sea kayaking symposium, which is not going to happen in the next fiscal year. So there's $7,500 there that's freed up. So.
Exactly. Okay. Go ahead, CO Muse.
Well, I hope to have an answer. Thank you, Mr. Warden. I hope to have an answer around the specific questions I have on the budget, but I didn't get an answer yet. But I think what it boils down to is whether they had confirmation for other funding, which really from our perspective is probably less of an issue, because if they didn't get the money, they won't do the event and we won't have to pay. I think more specifically, it related to the expenses and specifically who was actually going to put this on, because I was not clear on whether it was a YASTA project that they would be paid for, or whether it was like a Mile East project that they would be paid for. There was a consulting fee in the expenses that I wasn't able to confirm for you before this meeting. I mean, it's hard for me to give you a recommendation one way or another, because we have that one, we have Luc, we also have the Congrès Mondial, And we also have the potential of the Golf and Country Club that all comes up, and all of them are very important things. So so I wish I had a bit more information on that expense for you. But the good news is that if you're still committed to the project, you can make that decision. We'll make it work in the budget if that's what your intentions are. And we can get those answers after. And obviously, if we were satisfied, we would disperse the funds when that happened. So I don't, that's about all I have on that right now.
Okay. Councillor Reid.
I think this is a great opportunity for our residents to go see the curling. There's a lot of people that certainly do play it, that do watch it. And I think it's a benefit to our municipality. There'll be some people possibly staying at some of the B&Bs that we have. So I certainly am going to support it. And I like to make a motion right here that we support our two partners have, and I do feel it's a good thing. So I'll make that motion that we support the 10,000 for Fiesta on the curling.
And it's okay, it's seconded by Deputy Warden. Questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Sonia.
Thank you, Warden. I got a bunch of questions, I guess. Who is the money coming from this curling event only coming from the 3 municipalities? In other words, what is the budget for this event?
There was a budget that was sent, and I don't, it's not included in here. I'm wondering.
Unfortunately, I had it, but I can't seem to find it. Sorry.
I just found it.
Yeah, I thought Councillor Dartmouth, you had sent it to us too. That I know I've seen it.
Yeah, I just found it.
Okay.
So income sponsorship was 15,000. Government funding is still blank. Town of Yarmouth, 10,000. Municipality of Yarmouth, 10,000. Municipality of Argyle, 10,000. Room levy, 10,000. Province of Nova Scotia, 30,000. Ticket sales, 20,000. 50/50 net would be 2,000. So 107,000 was the total, with expenses basically totaling to 107. So it evens out.
Okay, thank you. I'm in total support of any event. I don't know if I've made myself clear on that in the past, but I've been involved in sports in the past, and it does bring Yarmouth some money. The impact is large. It also brings recognition to our area. I was just concerned about the fundraising because I've been part of it 3 times, and we had lots of. At the time when we raised money, we raised $30,000 with a little bit of municipal help, but not a lot. But it was all legwork and from different businesses who raised money. And my only concern was, I mean, with this budget being so large, you can't do that. I understand that. So I was just wondering how all this was shared. And plus, with the comments made earlier on us supporting Yarmouth events, I think, Nicole, you mentioned that they should support our events. I want to highlight that by saying that we always support Yarmouth for obvious reasons, and for the same reasons they should support us. So thank you.
Yep. Someone else, anybody else? Seeing no other hands go up, call for the question. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. The next one's a letter of support. It's a request, and it's for the renewable energy development. There's 2 attachments, and this letter of support, it's for a windmill development in our municipality again. It's a project. The one thing it says here it's for approval. We're not approving the project. We're approving the support of the application, that if they meet all the criteria, then we would be approving the approval. We would be approving the letter of support, the support that we give to this application. So anybody have any questions? Maybe Alain, if you want to okay, I see one question. Did you want? Okay, we'll go to Councillor Surratt. Go ahead.
I guess it's just a concern to our CAO, to staff, and to all of us that, and I'm not just sure how it happened. I'm in favor of this stuff, no question. Just whatever happened in Shelburne, the first thing, there was a big huff puff over people not knowing what was going on, and they had signed off a letter not letting people know what was going on, about they were considering supporting with a letter of support. You know, I don't want to get into that tussle, but there's one thing I'll say. We are on camera right now. People that are listening, hopefully you'll pass it on to other people that this is just a letter of support if it passes. And we're not hiding anything behind anyone. That's all I wanted to say.
The one thing I can add is we've set up a meeting with this with I don't know, it's Richard Deacon, who is with this company, and we're going to meet with him tomorrow, and he's going to give us a presentation. He's going to give us a little bit of more about what they plan on doing or whatever. So I don't know if there's a rush to get this letter of support now, or should we wait till we hear more about what their plans are. But the one thing that we have to realize here is we're not approving a project. If they put an application, then there's a process to go through, and it is consultation with the public and whatever else. I mean, it's not just a matter of us saying, no, we're going to approve this regardless. So it's up to council. If you feel you'd rather wait to hear more about what he has to say tomorrow, that's fine as well. But it's also, if you know, just so you know, it is only a letter of support for the application. More questions, more. Councillor Digdon?
Thank you.
I didn't see your hand, but I saw you unmuted.
You're right on, you're right on, sir. And please don't think I'm trying to put anyone on the spot here, but I see that it is out in District 5, and I'd like to see what the councillor from District 5 would have to say about this before I make a decision, or I just don't want to upset anyone. And I know she has a good hand on the pulse of what goes on in her area, so I'd just like to see what she says about it. That's all.
Sure. There's still a lot up in the air, to be honest, about this whole process. So this is very preliminary. He's put in an application. I know I've had some conversations with him. This letter of support would be just kind of like when we talked about the Mariner Center application we've put in, how our letters of support are another tick on his application to help strengthen it. That's kind of what he's looking for. There's been some conversations with staff at the municipality, and they're still waiting to find out if they're even accepted or not, but they just want to kind of add this to their application. That's why when I was speaking with Richard Deacon, I asked him if he could possibly speak to our council, because I have a lot of unknowns as well. So I felt like it would be a good way for us to listen to what he has to say. And you know, the location that they've chosen seems to be an ideal location from what I've read so far. But there's still a whole lot of public engagement and lots of pieces still in the puzzle to be put together. But it sounds really good, Councillor Digdon, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, but everything sounds good on paper. And then there's reality, but this is one more piece to just kind of help the process along. I hope that helps.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Councillor Digdon.
If I may just ask as a follow-up,
Sure.
would you, thank you, would Councillor Deputy Warden Albright, would you feel as though we should make a decision on this tonight, or listen to the presentation and then bring it back to make a decision on as far as the letter of support? Or is it a time constraint that he's asking for it now? That's all. Just would like your opinion, that's all.
I don't think it would make a difference if we waited either tonight or tomorrow. Like, it's not going to make a big difference time-wise because it's only a day. The only difference that I see is that this meeting is public, and we would be showing our decision in public, rather than having the meeting tomorrow with him as well. So that's the only difference is in terms of time-wise. It would make a huge difference. But for me, I would rather us, but it's kind of like chicken or egg, right? We are hearing the presentation tomorrow, but making a decision today.
CEO Muse.
I just, thank you. I just want to remind council that what you're being asked to do here is, as Deputy Warden said, tick a box. So of course, the consequences of not ticking that box would be that the application doesn't go forward. So you are kind of in a weird place because this is actually not your development, and it's not your decision to develop. In fact, it's a provincial initiative. Our role as the municipality would be strictly land use. So do they fall within our municipal strategy? Did we say we're okay with this? And the answer is yes, we did. We did say that. However, it can't just be done willy-nilly. It's got to be done a certain way. And as you know, many of the regulations say that a minimum distance of 1,000 meters has to be for every turbine to every home. That's not a small feat. It's not something that you can just do in downtown Tuscot. You have to find a remote place. That's your only role. That's your only role in the application. So what they're asking you to do is to tick the box, that particular box for them, but also understand there's about 85,000 other boxes they have to tick. And this is a process that's going to take years and years and years and years. And so I think maybe the mistake that we might make is if we got too far ahead of ourselves and said, well, this is a municipal project. It's not. It's a provincial initiative. And I think our public deserves to know that it's a provincial application, and it's on land that is owned by some of our residents. And part of that application involves them saying, yes, this sounds like a really good idea. I'd like to do that on my land. So as you know, when you own land, you have rights. And so there, this is certainly a wind turbine here or anywhere else. There could be other investments in this area that could also be a bit of a nuisance to some people seeing it or hearing it. So I just want to, I'm not asking for a decision today or tomorrow. That's entirely up to you. I just want you to know this is the only role you have in this process is basically land use, and you've already done a heck of a good job setting up your land use bylaw to make sure that people can't just throw a turbine anywhere. The only thing I'll say, the only last point I'll make is that this is unlikely to be the only application in this community. So there's a lot of money going into this project, provincial money. And so there's a lot of applications, and many of those applicants might be in your community, and they may also be setting up an application in another community, the same people. So I'm just trying to, let's not, paint this as if it's a sure thing, because it's far from it.
What's your decision? Do we make a motion tonight that we're supporting that? If we are, someone can make the motion and take.
I'll make the motion. I'd rather make the motion in public, to be honest.
Yes.
Second.
And that's seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any more questions or comments? Councillor Sonia.
The only question I have was that when I campaigned, there was a few people that did mention the windmills, and the question was, I did not own land where these went, but I didn't like them where they went. So as our CEO mentioned, if you own land, you can say yes or no, but if you don't own land, how far does your opinion go? Is that a good question?
It, through you, Mr. Muse, is that's why the land use has those regulations to kind of mitigate those nuisances. So I think every complaint has to be from a resident as a non-owner has to be seen as a serious and legitimate complaint. And we know a lot of them because we have a number of investments both in Wedgeport and in Pubnico and Como's Hill. I shouldn't ignore them. And so you know, people will bring up the same issues. So our job isn't to eliminate all nuisances forever. It's just that's not possible. With anything you do, there is a nuisance and people will get annoyed by them. I think our job is to try to minimize as much as possible the impact of those nuisances. So distance is certainly one of the ways that land use does this. And in this case, the 1,000-meter distance from a turbine has proven to be more than sufficient room for that. That doesn't mean that they won't hear it from time to time 1,000 meters away or drive by and think it's ugly. It does not mean those things. But our role isn't to eliminate, but rather regulate. And I think in that case, that's where that 1,000 came from. In fact, it was actually informed by our residents. Our residents told us they didn't like X, Y, Z, and we changed our rules to make it more difficult to do this. Not to eliminate the investment, but to make it so that the nuisances would be lowered.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there's a motion on the floor. If there's no other questions, I'll call for the question. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. The next one is the bilingual stop signs, and there's an attachment. And I guess we've had the application or the letters have all gone out through the CUPEB, and it's just a matter of deciding where these signs are going to go. I know there's been some questions about whether they should go in the English communities and whatever, but I guess if we're going to do that as a municipality, and this is what the suggested motion is, recommend that we have a couple of options. We pass a motion to have all English stop signs in the municipality be replaced by bilingual signs, or we only have certain villages be identified as having bilingual signs. Option 2 to me could be a problem in some areas, even though some districts might be class. I have an English area in my district. Probably there's going to be some backlash on that. I'm not sure, but I think if we're going to do that, I think if we don't do them everywhere, there's going to be backlash by other areas who feel that they should have had them. So anyway, Scott, if you want to kick in this to start on this, it's up to you. If you have more to add to this.
Warden Muse, I don't have a whole lot. I think you've kind of summarized what we were looking for. You know, the two options basically is, do we replace them all, or do we identify the villages that we want them to be replaced? And I think that's the fundamental question tonight for the council to decide.
So anybody have any comments on either way, what they think should be done? Councillor Reid.
I'll just add this comment. It's about signs. Maybe it's not stop signs, but in my district, I've had 2 or 3 people approach me. We had like the villages or the back or about a side road in the village. Sometimes it was only in French. For whatever reason, that usually never happens. But we had, in fact, it was in Sluice Point, and some people wanted it in English. And then we have some signs that were only French, and they did, or just the opposite, I should say. So, you know what? They said, some of us are married to French, some of us are married to English, and they said, we'd like to see both on there. This is what I've experienced in my district over the last 13, 14 years. So I'll certainly make the motion right now that we move that council support the Office of Acadian Affairs project by replacing all English stop signs in the municipality of Argyle in favor of bilingual stop signs.
Okay, is
I'll
there a
second the
seconder?
motion.
Seconded by Councillor Bork. And if I may, these are bilingual. At least we're not taking away a stop.
Yeah.
We're putting both, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, any other comments? If not, I'm going to call for the question. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded. One, do you want that recorded, Councillor Donaldson? Yes. Okay, motion carried. The next one. Veterans banners. I'm going to let you take this, Scott.
Thank you, Warden Muse. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been in contact with the Legions in West Pimlico and Westport. They've basically, Westport kind of made contact with me that they're very interested in getting this project going this year. The Legion in West Pimlico also indicated that also, and I'm planning to meet with them soon at their next meeting. The challenges that I guess the question that I'm looking for, sort of feedback that I need from council was, one, do we support this project? And I assume we would, because it's pretty beneficial, I think, for our resident. But you guys can make that decision. But if we do say yes, then where do we go with these banners? Are these to go in all districts, or are they to be put in? I've indicated we're in West Pimlico, Tuscan, and Wedgeport, because that's where we have sidewalks. And the reason why we've indicated those areas is basically for safety reasons. One, if it becomes a responsibility of the municipality to put up the brackets and the banners, we would be able to, I can say that we have people on staff now that do have the safety training to use that type of equipment, and to do it on the sidewalks would be a lot safer, because we would not have the equipment to kind of go over a ditch and install it on the pole. Like, we would need Nova Scotia Power to kind of do that for us, and Nova Scotia may help us. I've been in contact with them to see if they would partner, and they have said they would consider. However, they've indicated that they may not have the manpower or the time to do this. And not only that, even if they do, they probably would only do the install the brackets, and the responsibility would still fall on the municipality staff to put up the banners and take them down, because these banners will only be up for a month. We will probably put them up like first week of October and keep them until November the 11th, and then take them down after that. So it would become a responsibility of ours, and we just don't have, sorry, just kind of lost my train of thought there, but we just don't have the equipment, I guess, to do it over the ditch. So to do it safe, we could do it with on the sidewalk areas. The other reason that we looked at that area is that it's a safety reason for people to go honor those banners. Those family could be actually on the sidewalks and, enjoying their relatives or whoever it is, their grandfather, their father there. If you have it next to a ditch on the side of the road, and it's not a great place for the family to kind of gather and enjoy the banner. So those were kind of the two main safety reasons. And the other reason is basically we don't have the equipment or the manpower to do that if we don't do it on the sidewalks. And then the other question around is the budgeting side of it that needs to be considered. How much do we actually budget for this project? So there's a lot to consider there. If there are any questions, I'm open to answering as best as I can.
Go ahead, Councillor Bork. Warden, you stepped out for a minute, so I'm gonna jump in for a minute to chair. Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy. I'm sort of disappointed because I was looking forward to this project, that the whole municipality would be able to honor all their veterans. This is something that I was really, really waiting for, to have a banner. And I'll say my dad was a veteran, and I was looking forward to see him up in East Pimlico, in my community, his banner up. We would have even paid for the banner itself. It was just the bracket that we were wondering. So I remember talking to Charlene last year about this, and we were discussing this, I think, through emails. And we had put it aside because we said, well, we're not ready to do this. We'll look for funding. And then through the municipality, we would have these banners up. And I had told the people, because they were seen in Yarmouth, we're having banners up. Barrington has banners up of their veterans. And so I was saying, well, patience, and we'll hopefully the municipality will help us with the legions and all that, to organize to put banners up in our regions. So I'm sort of disappointed that you're only looking to put them in 3 different locations. I understand what you're saying, but we do have places that we could put banners up safely. We have local community centers that have poles that are there. We have, I'm talking about my district, we have the community center, we have the church, we have the ballpark that's there. There's other places that we can put them up safely. So even if we only had a few in each region at safe places, of course, and that as we go each year, we could probably maybe put another budget each year to add more. So that's my thought, and I'm going to stick to it. I would like to see them throughout the whole municipality. Just looking at what's going on in this world today, people are fighting for their community, for their country, and our ancestors, my father and our grandfathers, and we have mothers that fought for our country, for our freedom. So I think it's important. This is something I really think it's important. Thank you.
Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I've been listening. I wonder if a suggestion, I guess I could make would be putting them in close proximity to all the schools. So like student population would see them, and it would probably make them think about what our forefathers sacrificed for us. And I don't know, I'm like Kathy, I like to see them spread out a little more. So that's just a suggestion I could think of right off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Digdon.
Thank you very much. As far as the banner program, I'm all in favor of it myself. And like Councillor Burke, I have been talking with Charlene on this for quite a while. What I do have a problem with, honestly, is possibly putting up 29 in West Pimlico and other areas not getting any. And I was looking at Councillor Burke when she was talking. Her dad was the last surviving veteran of the Second World War in East Pimlico. And I just feel as though we have 9 districts, and we don't, I believe they should be shared around some way in each district, and grow from there. That's my take on it there. And the only other thing I will say, if I may, is we definitely have a goal from the West Side Improvement Society, which I am a member of now, speaking to some of the executive yesterday, to put banners up on their poles and that. But at the same time, I'd hate to see 20 up or whatever, 29 in West Pimlico myself, and not in other areas. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Surratt.
I think it's a great initiative. I do have a problem like Councillor Burke and Councillor Digdon. My dad was a veteran also, and we were looking, forward. to maybe having something in our district. Certainly, you know, if it means that we need a sidewalk to put it on, we can maybe put sidewalks in Threads Island and Murals Hill to get them on. But no, like Councillor Burke said, she made a great point. I never thought of it. Like we have at the club on the Murals Hill, Threads Island, great place for the, I think they call it cherry pickers, those things that you can go next to the pole with and go up. So yeah, those places would work. And I'd rather support that we try to spread them out in the district too. But as CAO Surratt, just to let you know, your great footwork on this, and appreciate everything. And don't despair, because we may be looking at doing it a little different, but your legwork is great. But we'll just add on to it. Thank you.
Councillor Saunier.
Yeah, we're dealing with a highly emotional thing here, and I've attended the veteran ceremonies in the past since I'm councillor, and Wedgeport's a big deal. It's got the Legion and all that, and it's got many veterans. But we do end up in Comoes Hill, which is a tiny village compared to Wedgeport, and they take just as much pride over there as they do in Wedgeport. They bled in Comoes Hill just like they bled in Wedgeport. So I support what everybody's saying here. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Councillor D'Entremont first.
Yes, on Councillor Donaldson's point about putting them in schools, I know last fall I was in Grand Manan for their opening of lobster fishing, which is November 8th. So I was there during, Remembrance Day, and they had the banners with the veterans lined up close to the high school, and I thought it was really touching, because you look at those young men, back in the 1940s, just a year or two older than the kids going to the school, so a reminder of what freedom really is. So thank you.
Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. And the only thing I was going to mention, by the way, Kemp has a sidewalk. So there would be a possibility of possibly putting some out there. Kemp has a sidewalk.
Yeah, Kemp, if I may, Kemp does, but not East Kemp.
No, but I'm saying Kemp.
Yeah, because, it's not in the, where the sidewalk is the municipality of Yarmouth, okay? That's just so you realize.
Yeah.
I was going to add something here. I was going to ask something. So one question that I have is, these go on the power poles, right? Can anybody, if we were, because we have to depend on Nova Scotia Power as well to be able to put those up. If we had, and that's my, I know you're shaking your head, Councillor Shred, but that's my question, I guess. Maybe you answered it, because if we were to hire a company to put these banners up, not Nova Scotia Power, are we allowed to do that on their poles? Okay, that was one question. Yes, go ahead, Scott.
We are Warden Use. I've had that conversation with Nova Scotia Power. There's an application process, and I'm actually starting that process now to get approval. So it doesn't have to be Nova Scotia Power that installs those brackets. It can be a third party. So
okay, that was my question, because I think Nova Scotia Power at this point is pretty busy in manpower, and maybe you've covered that. So what do we want to do here? Do we want to Scott and whoever's working on this to kind of look at a little further to see what can be done so that every community has some, rather than put a whole lot, maybe not go with more, but to spread them out more? Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah. So do we need a motion to that effect? Or I see No, not a motion yet. Let's hear from our CAO first, if you don't mind, Councillor Bork.
I'm certainly not going to discourage any differing opinions around council around where you want these signs to be. As staff, you know, we will put them where you want them placed. Our role, I think, is the safety piece. So if we said the sidewalks would be the safest place, that's probably true, but it doesn't mean that there isn't safe places in your communities. And if that's what you want, then that's fine. I will say just this, you know, we will put as many brackets as you want us to put, but we rely on the Legion to provide us with these banners. So the Legion would own these banners, and it's up to the Legion to do the respectful thing, which is to contact a family and then see if the family wants to pay, et cetera, et cetera. Like we don't want to be involved in that, because that's a highly emotional matter, and it's a matter of family and legions, that's what they do. Our role is, what do you want, council? How do you want to celebrate this? Bring that to them and see if they can deliver. So, you know, the service itself, look, I mean, we can do anything you're willing to pay for it. I mean, you know, if we get a third party to come in and put them all over wherever you want, we don't have an issue to do that at all, as long as you're supportive of the cost. And of course, we would seek to do it as much as we could internally, but the more we have, the less practical that becomes, because of, you know, if you've got 1,000, it's a bad number, but if you got 1,000, you probably have to hire. If you've got 29, you could probably handle it. So I just want you to be aware of that, not because we're disrespectful of the families or the veterans. I don't think you'll find any of that in any staff or council. So it's where they go, as long as you're okay with us saying, look, we'll support any safe place. Like, if you're okay with that, then we can work with you to find those locations, no problem.
Anybody else? Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. The only thing I was going to ask is, now that we do have 20 poles on 20 poles equipped to take banners down here in the West Pubnico area, and it is the families of these veterans buying their own banners. If they so choose, would it be all right if they bought their own banners and used those poles? And there would be possibly even no cost to the municipality. And the reason I say that is these banners that are up on these poles here now, we've been switching them out on our own. We've got an approved safety harness that we use when we're up changing these banners out and that. So just wondering if that would be all right. And like I say, it would be chances are of no cost to the municipality.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah.
A good point, Glenn. There's a good possibility that we could use all those poles in Pubnico. Again, as CAO Muse mentioned, we don't want to be part of which family goes on those poles. That's going to be the Legion's decision. I don't want to be part of that. So that, because there might be families that are left out, we might not have enough poles. Hopefully there's that much demand that they're all being used, but there might be families being left out. So I don't want to be part of that. But in regards to installing them, I think we need to have a discussion around what exactly took place with the other banners. Does it meet the liability piece for the municipality? That's my major concern. I think we need to have a little more discussion around that and what it looks like before I'd say, yeah, we can do that. I think we need to talk about who's planning to put them up and who's planning to put them down, just in regards to the liability piece, Glenn. I'm concerned with that, and it's the safety issue.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Bork, you had your hand up earlier. Did you have something ahead? No, okay. So with this, then it looks like there needs to be a little bit more work done and a little bit more research or whatever. So do we just leave this with the, with staff to come back to us? Or how do we deal with this? Yeah, go ahead, CO News.
Just to be efficient for a change, would be that a motion would be best. So a motion would to instruct us to develop a plan of action involving all communities. I think would be sufficient for us to come back to you. It's not actually authorizing how many you're putting up because you don't know that. So what you would say is that your direction would be via motion and just basically say council moves that that the signage, the veteran signage program be implemented in the 2022 year in all communities, and that staff would come back with a plan.
Right, okay. So someone wants to make that, okay, I see. Councillor Sonia, is that a motion? No? Or is that, no, you have something? Yeah, go ahead.
So in that respect, in that motion, you'd be basically recommending that staff engages the Legion and the family members and all that, right?
I would suggest that the motion would be that we would engage with the Legion. The family members would deal with the Legions themselves. Our involvement with them would be minimal, but I would agree with your assessment that perhaps you want to mention the Legion in the motion because it's actually their project. We're the skeleton, but they're the heart, right? So
yeah, not only that, the factor that we both mentioned the emotions of all this, and I think it's only better that it is their decision to put them where they want to put them.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Our role, just to be clear, is our role is to just pick the communities. And so what you've done that tonight, or you're about to, because we said, look, these are the best ones to our knowledge. We need your help to finish our job. So you did that. So we just need.
Thank you.
So does someone want to make that motion? Okay, I have three hands. Councillor
I have a question on the
Yeah,
motion.
go ahead.
So we're going to ask staff to go further to see where we could put the brackets. The municipality would put the brackets, and the banners would be up to the Legion. So the brackets is the municipality that's putting them up, and we'll find safe places to put them, and then the Legion will work with the banners part. So there's like two pieces to this.
You got it. We basically put out the map and say,
right,
these are your options.
This is where we can put them. Okay, I agree to that. So I'll make that motion.
Yeah. Okay, so it's been moved, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any more discussion? Oh, you have, okay, Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I don't know how this is going to be decided where the brackets go, but I would only like one, and I'd like it up by the school. And if I have to pay for the banner, I'll pay for it in honor of my grandfather because he lived in that area. So I only want one bracket for my district up by the school.
Okay. So that you did second the motion, did you? Okay,
Yeah.
so it's moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Okay, CO Mutes.
Just to clarify, this motion does not mean that staff's taking over the project.
No.
It means is that we're going to bring a recommendation to you to approve. So
Exactly.
amendments to that recommendation, and you may be involved in the planning. So it's just like that's the way we do things, right? Like staff does the work for you, and it doesn't mean that you're not involved. It just means that we like to bring that to you. That's what we do.
Good. So if we're all clear, all in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. The next one is the flag policy. And I guess there's discussion here because the policy stated before that, well, probably still does because we haven't changed it, that the Acadian flag would be the one that would be replaced. So I guess this is open for discussion right now before we go for any kind of motion. So who wants to begin? Councillor Digdon.
Well, I guess I had a lot to say on it last time, and I was told to say a lot on it, so that's what I did. So the other evening, I was looking over the recommendations and what we could do to possibly change things, and that possibly a fifth pole would suffice up there and make everybody happy. So the other morning, I left here at 9:30. And by 10:30, I was back to my house, and here's what I picked up. So the first part would be digging the hole. And I put here, I will personally do this or see that it is done, and ground will be trucked off site. Number 2, the foundation. DNR Foundation, David Nickerson, has offered to donate the cement for the base. Number 3, Camo Seafoods and Metal Arc Fabrications Limited, 2 very reputable welding companies, have offered to make and donate the flagpole for an Acadian flag. The flagpole will be made and look very nice, will be well made and look very nice. Number 4, Vernon Dion's Lobster Plugs Limited has offered to donate the rope and hardware to raise and lower the flag. Number 5, Leslie and Ben, a company from Cape Breton that is putting an extension on the wharfs here in Lower West Pubnico, will raise the pole at no cost to the municipality with their boom truck. Number 6, many people have offered to buy Acadian flags to be flown on that pole. And all these companies that I've mentioned, they're all licensed companies, they're all insured companies. So that's what I can do, or that I've got done, I guess, with some help. If council see fits that they want an extra flagpole up there. And this way here, I was thinking that your Canadian flag, your Nova Scotian flag, your Indigenous flag, and your flag from the municipality could fly on those 4 poles at any one time. And on your 5th pole would fly an Acadian flag. And if there was one to be taken down for special requests from other organizations or groups, I was also looked over some policies and that from other municipalities, and a lot of times they take down the municipal flag for the time being. And being as though we don't even have a municipal flag flying up there, or haven't had a municipal flag flying up there since the place has been opened, I don't think it would be a problem there. So anyway, that's what I got to bring up here this evening with the help of a lot of individuals down here in West Pubnico. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Sonia.
Well, kudos to you, Glenn. Did a lot of good things. I caught me by surprise, but that's 5th flagpole is fine. My only question I would have had before that, and I can ask now, was that we were talking about maybe flying the municipal flag, and in looking at the old school site on the computer about municipality, I looked, there's a sign at or was a sign, I don't know if it's still there, of our logo. I think Janine's, well, I know Janine is standing in front of it. It says something like a great place to live or something like that. What's wrong? My suggestion would have been, what's wrong with having a sign like that in front of the new building? Because I thought that was sharp. However, if you're going to fly a flag, that's fine. I also want to keep the municipality or our council in mind that we have our logo at every border in the municipality. For instance, in my community here in district, I have 2, one in Camoes Hill and one in Plymouth. And I'm sure Kathy has one in her district going from Barrington to Argyle, and the same with Danny. So our logo is well represented. But again, I can't beat the 5th flagpole for free. But I have a question. Can you fly? I know you can't fly, you gotta fly the Canadian flag alone, but can you fly the municipal flag along with other flags, one on top of the other? I think you can. No?
You can't have two flags on the same pole according to protocol. It's disrespectful. It's considered disrespectful by those that regulate that, and could be seen as disrespectful of others, because which one do you put on top and which one do you put on bottom, and are you actually delivering a message when you do that, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Reid.
My kudos to Councillor Digdon. My gosh, he did some digging. Wow, was good. Hey, I certainly, if the fifth poll answers the question, and then we can get our Acadian flags being flown, hey, I'm all for that. And at no charge, can't ask for anything better than that. So I certainly support that poll, no charge, and get our Acadian flag flying all the time. Thank you.
I have a question on the flagpole. The 4 flagpoles that we have now are identical. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So if we put a 5th, should it not be identical to those as well?
I don't know if that, I think that's probably more for Councillor Digdon. Until about 5 minutes ago, was not aware of any of the donated product.
I wasn't either.
I'm not aware that even the location of it. I'm presuming that it's on the same location, but I don't know.
Go ahead, Councillor Digdon.
Well, I can, yes, the location would be up with the other 4 flagpoles at the municipal office. I can honestly say, and that it will not be identical to the other flagpoles. And as a councillor, I can honestly say, if I would have knew that the other flagpoles were costing us in the vicinity of $10,000 a piece, and that I don't know if I would have been in favor of that either. I will say that there will be a nice looking flagpole. It will be made of either stainless steel or aluminum, where it will not rust or nothing like that. It will not have a motorized way of, I believe the flagpoles up there have a motor there now to get the flags up and down. And I honestly feel as though we'll see how that fares out in a few years' time with all the salt spray and everything around and that. So it would not be quite as, it would not be a $10,000 or $15,000 flagpole, but it would be a very nice flagpole, aesthetically appealing, I would say. And I don't think anyone would have any trouble with that flagpole, flying that flag. Thank you.
Deputy Warden.
Thank you. So would this flagpole, Councillor Digdon, did you say you would want the Acadian flag on that one, or does it matter? Would we put the municipality flag on that one, and then that's what we would lower and put other flags? I'm a little bit confused.
Again, I don't believe that any of the donors would have any trouble with whatever flag that council chose to put on that pole, by no means. And I don't believe it would be right for me to be trying to tell council what flag should fly in that flagpole. The big thing it would be giving us an extra flagpole with the understanding that the Acadian flag would always remain up to be flown. Thank you.
Any other questions? So, yeah, go ahead, CO News.
I just want everybody to be aware that there's no motor on our flagpoles. It is manual. So if you're suggesting a manual, it will not be different than other setups there. There's a lock and key on that. And the cost of 10 to 12,000, we didn't do the search on what the cost of a new pole would be. We looked at what the potential cost could be when you include all the excavation, et cetera. We did not do any research on that because we weren't in the position to do so, because the flag protocol policy was such that there were 4 flags. The moment that you would make a decision to change that policy, we would then do that work. Or, I mean, as it stands now, you know, that number is going to be 0 according to what we've heard. So I just want to make it clear, like putting up a flagpole can cost you as little or as much as you might want to invest. And from a practical perspective, I mean, we are talking about the policy, but I am going to go into the practical. You're not going to be able to put a flagpole in the middle, so it's going to be to the left or to the right. So if you're going to follow your protocol, it's either going to have the Canadian flag or the Acadian flag, depending on which side it might be, unless you change your flag protocol to change the order. And I've given you advice on what you've done so far and what was right and what continues to be correct there. But it's your policy. So if you want to do a different protocol, it's your call.
I would want to make sure that it's at least as high, same height as the others. I mean, I'm not sure how that's going to look. We have a smaller flagpole for one flag. I just don't think that that's going to look proper to have that. If it's not, at least maybe not the exact same pole, but I think it's got to be just as high as what's there if we're going to put a 5th pole. My feeling is, and that's just my feeling, that we're doing something that's really, really not necessary. That's my feeling. That there's a way to deal with this, with the policy that we have with 4 flagpoles, rather than have another flagpole that may or may not be. We've never had, have we ever had a municipal flag flown? Did we ever have one at the other place? Never, no. How many municipalities have a municipal flag flying? I'm wondering as well. I don't know. I can't remember seeing, or maybe I just never noticed because it's not something that I was looking for. It just, I don't know. That's just my opinion. That's how I feel, that I think we can work with the policy that we have with 4 flagpoles, and we have 4 identical poles. And I have no problem with the way, actually, I have no problem with the policies written. I can tell you that much. So anyway, that's just my view. Anybody else? Councillor Bork.
Thank you, Warden. Is there anywhere else that we can put like a flag, and we could call it the a flag, like Glenn's flagpole? We could put it somewhere else, and it would be just for special occasion flags, like the African flagpole or the transgender flag, just for them, like have a special spot somewhere on our site, just for that. Maybe that could work, and then that would probably solve the problem for everything.
To me, that would make more sense. If it's going to be, if it's alongside the other 4, I think it's got to be one like the 4 that are there. If it's outside, then maybe you're right. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Me?
Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay,
Kathy,
so
go ahead.
I mean, Glenn's effort of getting this flagpole, I mean, it's great, and if the community wants to make us a flagpole and for nothing, and why not take out the opportunity? So I think that would be the best thing, is put it on site and have it a site exactly just for these special occasions.
Go ahead, Anna.
So we're speaking about the protocol, so I keep coming back to that. This ticks boxes for me because, you know, of course, the concern I had with the 5th pole was if you don't want to fly the municipal flag, you're going to have an empty pole, and that doesn't look good either. So the fact that it seems like you're deciding that the municipal flag might be important to fly. There are some municipalities that do, there are that do not. If you do it on its own, obviously there's no order, it's alone. So if you can put the municipal flag somewhere else, in my mind, it beautifies the property, because the municipal flag is I don't mean to offend anyone, not the nicest flag, right? And so you've got 4 beautiful flags there right now, right? Including the Acadian one, by the way. And so if you put that one, it's going to be like a plain white with our logo on it. If you did it somewhere separate and then you had a special request, you could lower that flag in favor of that request, and then you're actually respecting that request the way that it should be. And your only conflict is if you have 2 requests at the same time, then you have to say, well, we can only go up for 2 weeks. But you would never be in conflict with your 4 flags because it never would happen. This would eliminate Danny's concern around the beautification piece, because I love the donation and the idea of donation, but it's almost impossible to have it look identical. So this way you don't have to. You can make mistakes, right? You can do different things and have it on site and still do what Glenn would like to achieve. So I wanted to tell you from a protocol perspective how it would work.
Okay. Councillor Sonia.
Just a quick comment. My initial thoughts were, if a 5th flag was to be put up, it would not be alongside the other 4. So that's what my thoughts were at the time. So I'm all for that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Deputy Warden.
Thank you. I too was okay with the flag policy. I didn't have a problem with it, but this would eliminate any, I guess, controversy as far as the different types of flags and what do we fly and when do we fly it. So, but I like the idea of putting it in a separate location. And I like the idea of having our municipal flag on there so that there is something flying if we don't have special requests. So if we could accommodate that, then I think that kind of solves most of our issues.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's a good idea. If we, that it wouldn't bother me to see it on its own, but if it's right there beside it, I had a bit of concern. Go ahead, Glenn.
Thank you. And yes, that would be definitely a way of doing it. And because the pole is not going to be identical, I'll assure you that. But at the same time, it will be a very nice pole. And the only other thing I'm looking at here now, being as though our flag does not, and the municipal flag does not look that good. And I noticed here we received here something here a little while ago about municipal flags and some of them not looking that nice out there and stuff like that. Maybe this would be a great chance for the municipality of Argyll to have a contest and choose a new flag that would fly on that pole and a nice looking flag and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay.
The only thing, if I may, the only thing, this is strictly a joke, but we are understanding that this will be for the Acadian flag will be flown on one of those 4 poles. And the only thing I will say is the people that are making this new pole, and that for special occasions, they are making a new pole, but at the same time, they assured me that they had, if they go by, they don't see an Acadian flag flying up there, that they do have grinders and they can cut down the poles pretty quick. So.
Okay, so where do we go with this? What's the? Scott, you have something to say? Yeah, go ahead.
Just in regards to the location, I'm just throwing out a suggestion for you to consider. One location would be, I guess, on the northwest side of our lot. I'm not sure if that's far enough from the 4 poles or not, but they would be, I think it would be, and it's basically on the other side of the parking lot in front of our new building. So at least we could still have access to it to put it up and down. The other suggestion would be at the archives. And again, I look at the CAO just to make sure that we actually own that property to say that we could. But if we do, that could be another location where we do already have staff that could, lower it if we have to and put it back up and make sure maintenance is good there. So anyhow, those are just two locations to consider.
So I guess the one decision is whether we go with the 5th. That's the first decision we're going to make. The location is something we're going to have to decide before it goes up, not after. Easier to decide where it goes before it goes up.
It's typically the order.
Go ahead, Glenn, you had
but-
something to say? No, I thought you had your hand up, Councillor Digdon.
I did, but I'd like to hear what our CAO has to say
Oh,
first, that's all.
Okay, no, I didn't realize he had his hand up.
It's all good. Your job today is to, it would be to amend the policy. So by amending the policy, the flag policy to having 5 flags and instructing us to do that, that is one of the options on your report. I didn't put a suggested motion because there was too many things going on, but that's what you want. You want to be able to bring that to your next meeting for approval. Once you approve the policy, you don't really have to approve a cost or whatever. We have to follow the policy. The policy says 5 flagpoles. So we go get the 5th one, no matter what way that we might find best. So I think your job today isn't to authorize a transaction. It's actually to change the policy to include the 5th pole along with the municipal flag option.
So moved.
Okay, and seconded by Councillor Digdon. Councillor Surratt, you had your hand up. Go ahead, you can discuss now.
Okay, just for myself, I just want to be sure, would Alain, would this policy then be, when changed, would that mean that the Acadian flag would be flying? Because I'd want to be sure it's in there. Is that what that would mean, Alain?
Yes, the protocol options would, in that respect, would modify the policy such that both the First Nation, the Canadian, Nova Scotian, Acadian, and First Nation flags, not necessarily in that order, would fly at all times. So the municipal flag would fly when there's no special purpose. When there's a special purpose, that will be lowered in favor of that.
Perfect.
So what we need now is, okay, that's been made to change the policy. There's a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. Okay, that's the end of our decision. One thing I want to bring up, and it's not on the agenda, but we had a presentation. Did we want to discuss that presentation, like the 25,000 that was it for the concert that they were talking about? Do we want to discuss that now, or do we just wait for another meeting? Or go ahead, CL.
Just as a matter of procedure, I think where we left him was that he was going to see if he could get money from other parties.
Okay.
So I don't know how appropriate it would be. I mean, you can.
So there's no
right
point.
now.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah. But
I
I think
wasn't
that was
sure.
the.
I wasn't sure if it worked the other way. You know what I'm saying? Like whether he needed hours to go for others or whatever. But you're right. Go
It's an
ahead.
excellent point. You're right to raise that too. You're equally correct. I'm not sure. It's really up to you as council. You can do that today. What we typically do at this late in the year is we say that, like, we would approve it and bring it to budget deliberation.
Yeah.
Say like, okay, this is cool. We're going to do that, but we're going to do it in next year. That's why we do that motion.
Yes,
That's what we choose.
Yeah. Councillor Surratt.
Alain, wouldn't that go to grants to organizations? Because I believe he spoke to Scott, and Scott had kind of mentioned, or Scott never said anything, but he said he spoke to Scott about a grants organization, and Scott shook his head. So wouldn't that be the process that is going to go through?
Under normal circumstances, it would. If you the grants to organizations policy, what you'll find is that there's a special events provision. And so this, I think, I mean, I haven't memorized it, but I'm pretty sure this would fall in to that special category, much like the curling club and those kinds of requests where it's one-time event. So typically those are large in number. And if you put them through the grants to orgs process, it usually kills a lot of other projects.
Exactly.
So what we typically tell people is make the application so we have it on record, but we don't necessarily include it with that process if it falls out of it.
Exactly, because you're right. I mean, we only have X number of dollars, and if you look at $25,000 out of our grants, the organizations could buy other organizations. Okay, so that looks after that. Correspondence and for information, we have the recreation meeting, the minutes, I should say. Office of Regulatory Affairs and Service Effectiveness 2021 Annual Report. The list of grants, and that's just that's the grants. Yeah, just a list of what the grants that we are given and what's left in our own pot. Recreation summer employee wages. And I guess that's just for information as well. And the last thing is the civic addressing signage bylaw. And the reason that's on there, I had a call. Oh, and I forgot to mention, it's kind of late now because he's not here, but I had a regret from Councillor Boudreau. Okay, and he's the one who had brought this up. He called me on that and I said, well, we can discuss it. Apparently, the fire department picked up signs for Wedgeport, and some of the people were a little, for those that didn't have our own signs, our own civic signs. And some of the people that were handed out had no idea what this was all about, apparently. Asked, well, how do we put them up? And they were told that they would have to pay $25 for a post if they wanted a post that we have. And the policy's been, we've had the policy for a little while now, but I think what Councillor Boudreau was saying mostly was, if people don't know, maybe should we re-advertise that policy so that people would be aware of that? I don't know how, but and he also mentioned, well, why, if they're given a sign, why don't they give something to put it up with? So that's not what our policy says, right? The policy says that they pay $25 for the post. Anyway, he just wanted me to bring that up, and he felt that maybe there should be a little more public ads or somehow, whether it's in the news letter or whatever, to say this is the policy now. Everybody is supposed to have a blue civic municipal sign, right? And it's not just for the municipality. This is for emergency responders, so they can find your location, your property. So anyway, I told him I would bring it up. I thought he was going to have, he was going to speak on it, but when he called me, he asked me if I would. So basically, I'm just saying what he brought to me on that. Anybody? Okay, CO Muse.
I'll try to make this easy on you, since you've already passed the bylaw. This is what you're intending on doing. So we will endeavor to social media blast this and do what we do.
Okay.
I think, perhaps one of the things that we did was rely a little bit too heavily on the volunteer firemen who were part of the process, right? So, sometimes it doesn't always, not everybody gets the information in the right way. So we'll put out some social media on this, like saying it's now policy. The reason why we're not like imposing it necessarily right now is because for the past couple of years, we've been investing cash and going from community to community. So the first one that was done was Emeralds Hill, Hubbard's Point. And I think they did a really bang up job as well in the promotion as well. I think they did really good. And so we're going community by community. So we're not necessarily forcing people to come and buy it. We're actually identifying the ones that are missing and making sure they have it for free. The post is not free. We value, so basically in a limited budget, you have a choice. You either pay for everything and do less, or pay for something and do more. So we pay for something and do more, which is more signs. We had a bit of a mishap last year with the Wedgeport order. It's been rectified. You know, and we hope not to have that happen again, because it's an expensive thing to order. So we did have a bit of an issue there that has been since rectified.
Okay. So I guess that's what he was asking for anyway. So that's good. Okay, the next is district community grants. The first one is East Side Fire Department, Ladies Auxiliary. They're asking for, I don't see.
Councillor Dickon, I think he has something to say.
Pardon me?
I think Councillor Digdon had something to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Digdon.
That's all right. Thank you very much, Deputy Warden. The only thing I will say, I've been promoting these civic signs ever since I came on council. And the reason being, I know how important it is for people to display these civic signs. And if there's somebody out there, it may be the best $25 you ever spent to get this sign up. But at the same time, I'm quite sure there's not a councillor sitting around here this evening, or our CAO, if somebody comes and says, listen, I really need a sign, but I don't have $25, or I don't have no way to put it up. I'm quite sure every one of us will make it a job for us that we can help them put it up or get it up in some way. And that, yeah. Please, please get your civic signs up, folks. Thank you.
Okay. I apologize, Councillor Digdon, didn't see. I see you. Usually I see you go out of mute. This time I didn't see your hand going like this. Okay, now we're going to do the community grants. This one is for Councillor Bork. That's the Fire Department Ladies Auxiliary.
Yeah, I move that we give $500 to the East Side Fire Department and Ladies Auxiliary.
Seconded by Councillor D'Entremont. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. The next one is Argyle Baptist Historical Church, $500, and that
No
was
move.
Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Albright. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Carried. Next one would be mine. I can't make a motion. It's $500 for the Abrams River Schoolhouse Society. Councillor, okay, Deputy Warden Digdon and Councillor Bork moved and seconded. All in favor, by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. Am I missing one here? Yeah, I did miss one. The Kempville Volunteer Fire Department, that's mine as well. Moved by Albright, seconded by Councillor Bork. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Carried. East Side Fire Department, that's the one.
No, it
Where
would
did I
be
stand?
East Side Community Center.
Okay.
We already did
so-
the East Side Fire Department.
East Side Grant, we did that one. So where did I miss one here? District. That's a Kempville. We did the Argyle. Oh, we didn't. We did the Argyle. Did we do? I didn't do them in order here for some reason.
No.
The district community grant for the Argyle Baptist that was done. The one for Église Saint-Pierre. Whose is that one?
Yes, Councillor Digdon, yeah, not Deputy Warden, but Councillor Digdon would make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second
Yeah.
it.
All in favor, signify by raising your hand. I'm all confused here.
And I'm only joking with you, Mr. Warden. You called me Deputy Warden Digdon here a couple of minutes ago, so I'm only joking.
Oh,
with
did
you,
I?
sir.
I didn't.
Yes, you did.
That's why I wondered why Councillor Surratt was laughing and I didn't know why. Okay, Abrams River, East Side Fire Department Ladies Auxiliary, we did. District Community Grant for East Side Community Center.
Slow move.
Moved, seconded by Deputy Warden Albright. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Carried. I think that's it. Agenda topics for next meeting. Notice of motion. Nothing. Question period, anything.
There's no questions on Facebook, no.
So we're ready to go in camera. Motion to go in camera. Seconded, okay, Councillor Surratt, Councillor Donaldson, all in favor, signify by raising your hand. Okay. We're gonna move in camera.